This is Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, who's going to be speaking to us this morning. And I think probably most of the people, if not all, have seen and heard Dr. Simmons speak before. I have had the personal pleasure. I was trying to remember how long, but probably close to 20 years at least, and find her insights to be just really moving and encouraging me to move. And I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say. Do we have her bio up that I can just go through a couple of the things? She's a doctor from the theology from the Holos University Graduate School. And of course, she's a Unity minister and a workshop trainer and educator. And she's currently a member of the adjunct faculty of the Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. And her husband, Gary, is also a Unity minister with a long history of integral ministry program. So we look forward to hearing what Jane has to say this morning. Take it away, Jane.
Well, thank you, Dennis. It's so wonderful to be with you all today. I'm very excited to share my talk, but if I can take a little diversion here before we start. Some of you were together prior to the service starting when people were mentioning Burning Man, that they'd been at Burning Man. And I was going to pipe up and say, well, I've got a sort of a little, claim to fame that my first husband, I was married to for 20 years, uh, was at the original Woodstock. And so, so that's, kind of a wonderful background piece to my life and how it's been over the last, 50 years. And then who do we hear? A Sly and the Family Stone. And it was like taking me right back to those days. So thank you
Yeah.
for that, that wonderful music and for those memories to come forth because it was a beautiful time in our history, in our cultural history of, becoming something new. There was a newness to life in that time that I think it's time to recapture. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So I'm really excited to share my talk today, which is called Become a Solutionary. Um, Now, to be clear, I didn't make that word up. You might have thought it was something I came up with, but there's actually a book called The Solutionary Way by Zoe Wheel. And her definition of what a solutionary is refers to identifying systemic issues and then developing the healthy solutions that can benefit all that are within the system. Basically, that's what that means. It's a holistic approach that focuses on the relationships between all parts of the system rather than just focusing on one piece and trying to work with the individual elements. So what we're talking about this morning, and the way I kind of look at it, I would say it's about having a wholeness mindset, a wholeness mindset. And we're going to explore what that might look like today. Now, in her book, she begins by telling the story of a time as a teacher when she was working with a fifth grade class. And she asked the students to help her to brainstorm all the problems that they were facing as a human family right now on this planet. And wow, they had no problem coming up with a list. It was quite comprehensive. They were able to really see what's wrong with the world, and they could articulate it very well. Seems they're very well versed in all the issues and the challenges that are up for us. And then after making the list, she said, now, how many of you think that you can take an action of some kind that that can change something here, that can do something about one of these issues? And she was disappointed to see that there were maybe three hands and they were kind of tentative, maybe. So so then she said, okay, now I want you to get out your journal and I want you to write about the world you want to live in. If you could create a world that you wanted, write it out, describe it in detail, really get into what that world would be like. Well, the students dove into this writing, were very descriptive of a world they wanted to create. And when they had finished writing, she said, How many of you think that through your actions, you could bring into being this new world that you have envisioned? And what do you think happened? Well, every hand went up with enthusiasm. And as I read about this, it reminded me of a workshop that I was in one time. And one of the exercises was we took a piece of flip chart paper, and with a partner, we were asked to design the perfect city. What would the perfect city look like in your world? And as we began to focus on the ideal that we were looking for in the room, the energy rose significantly. It rose significantly. It was just a different kind of feel in the room. And my partner and I, now this is a rendering of what we came up with. Ours was much more primitive using Sharpies, but we became very inspired. We became very excited about envisioning a city with an abundance of healthy food, one that was ecologically sustainable, one that had affordable housing for all, one that had community organic gardens that everyone could be fed, composting that everyone could participate in, recycling, bike paths, youth programs, walking trails. We really got into it. Excellent public transportation systems, green energy, waterfront parks, you know, pet friendly. And the more we got into it, the more exciting it became. And by the time we got to share our picture with everyone else, I mean, the two of us were just dancing around. We're so excited to really talk about, imagine this world with me. And here's the thing, I could see myself in that city. I could actually see myself, and I could tap into the feeling of what it would feel like to be living in such a place. Now, Unity's third principle is usually boiled down to something like change your thinking, change your life. That is true, but it's not the whole picture. It's not the whole picture. We have to also change the way we're feeling. See, the feelings are really important. So we want to focus on what we want to have happen and then start feeling the way we're going to feel when it comes to pass. And then sustaining that feeling as we take action that supports the emergence of whatever our vision is. You see, this is a powerful transformation formula. And the feeling is the rocket fuel. It's the rocket fuel behind transformation, especially the feeling of gratitude. Feeling of gratitude. And it isn't just that we get what we're visualizing and then we start to feel grateful. No, that's just good manners. Feeling gratitude first, and this is how Jesus, if you remember, always prayed. He would I thank thee for, as he started out his prayer. Feeling gratitude first, before you see it manifested, is what the New Thought minister David Owen Ritz calls kick butt gratitude. We want to get into some kick butt gratitude here because it has generative power, you see. It actually can create something. It can help something to come to pass. So feeling the way you're going to feel when it comes to pass is not the end result of transformation. It's the prerequisite. It's the prerequisite. It's not the ending piece. We got to start there. And in fact, it's faith in action. I heard once that faith stands for the letters feel as if the thing happened. That's faith, to feel the way you're going to feel and sustain that feeling as you take steps toward making it happen. And when we do that, we begin the process of midwifing what we're envisioning into reality. See, do you feel the power of this? That's how we become a solutionary with a wholeness mindset. And the reason this is so effective of sustaining the way we're going to feel when it happens, we're impressing on the subconscious mind not only a picture of what we want, but the conviction of its fulfillment. Do you see? That is the real that's the rocket fuel right there. It's not only what we're envisioning, but it's the conviction of fulfillment, and that's what can really get us across the finish line. Because what happens when we only keep our eyes on what's wrong? What happens? Focusing on what we don't want, you know? when we do that, we become, and I will admit this is a word I made up, a problematarian. Am I being a problematarian, which means seeing only the problem, problematizing, if you will, awfulizing. You ever heard that term? I'm awfulizing about life right now. Because as Phil Knight reminds us, if the problem is all we see, then we're not seeing it clearly. And if you remember Unity minister Eric Butterworth, he was famously used to say, don't set it right, see it right. Don't set it right, see it right. Now, it's not that we want to stick our head in the sand and just ignore those problems. We certainly don't want to be in psychological denial about what is happening in our world. However, if that's all we see, there's no room for transformation because we get buried and stuck in a chronically pessimistic viewpoint that tells us this is just how life is. You can't change it, you know? The glass is half empty no matter what viewpoint I take here. There's no hope. The issues are too big. And then my old favorite standby, what can one person even do about it? And when this kind of thinking happens, and I don't know about you, but as I currently look around at what's happening in our culture, this kind of thinking is so easy for me to emerge. It can and sink me. So even though it's emerging, it can just drag me under. So I really want to remember to ask myself, whatever's going on in my world, am I being a solutionary or a problematarian right now? Just really get clear on that. So while we stay very aware of the issues, at the same time, we want our focus and our energy to be on what we want to see happen and start to feel the way we're going to feel when it manifests. You know, Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, among other books, tells us we're spiritual beings with spiritual business to transact on this plane. And I love that. I love remembering that. We're spiritual beings. We came here with our spiritual business ready, and we do it in the physical realm. And I believe that's what we're here to do. So what that means to me is that we're here to be the change we're seeking by embodying the transformation that we want to see in the world. We begin to participate in bringing it forth. Do you see that? We have to embody what we want to see out there, and we start to bring it forth in that way instead of being at the mercy of whatever's showing up and just trying to like fix all these outer problems. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean we don't take action of some kind, of course, but we start here. Now, Buckminster Fuller, I don't know how many of you are familiar with him. He's one of my personal heroes in the world. He says this, don't fight the existing reality, build a new one that makes it obsolete. And he followed those words, and he had something like 28 patents, and he designed the geodesic dome. He had very, very unique designer of things. And I believe that creating a new paradigm of living is creating a new model that makes the old obsolete. I believe that's our spiritual business that we're here to transact. Now, what you may not know about Buckminster Fuller, because all we hear about is how successful he was, is that he was such a nonconformist that he was kicked out of Harvard twice, not once, twice. He struggled with alcohol and depression. He even attempted suicide. What happened? How did he turn his life around so completely? Well, he was on the verge of taking his own life when he heard the words, "You do not have the right to eliminate yourself. You belong to the universe. Your significance will remain forever obscure to you, but you may assume you are fulfilling your role if you apply yourself to converting your experiences to the highest advantage of others." Apply yourself to converting whatever is happening in your world to the welfare of all. And do you feel the power in that? Dedicating the work we do to the advancement of humanity. And from these words, he heard the words and he found a new perspective that turned his life around, that led him to his higher purpose. Don't fight the existing reality. create one that makes it obsolete. So the other exciting aspect of all this for me is what can happen when an entire group comes into alignment with a common vision, collaborating on being the change, cohering together and training, becoming one with, feeling the way they want to feel as their vision comes into fruition. Now they can make progress. Now the rowing will take them much farther, see? And as Margaret Wheatley says, there's no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. And I think discovery is the first step. Next, we actually want to coalesce with the transformation we're looking for. Coalesce with the transformation we're looking for as we embody the change that we're seeking to see in the world. So let me ask you, how do you want this world to be? If you had your flip chart paper and your Sharpie, what would you create? What kind of a future do you want to coalesce with? How about a kinder, more compassionate one with equal opportunity for all? A world that is ecologically sustainable and safe, where everyone is treated with respect and dignity regardless of what they look like, where they're from, or who they love. If that world came to pass, how would you feel? What would you do? Start feeling and doing those things now as you hold that vision. And the more you embody and live that vision, the more you begin to look at life with an empowered, solutionary perspective, a wholeness mindset. You begin to midwife that vision into reality. So, a wholeness mindset boils down to recognizing and living the reality of oneness, which, of course, in unity is our first principle. There's one presence, one power. And it's experiencing that truth, the interconnectedness of the web of life, and ultimately realizing that our existence is not an individual affair. We're not separate. What we do matters. What we do affects all. It's called quantum entanglement, if you're looking at it in a quantum view. What we do matters. And we know that quantum waveforms become particles whenever they're observed, right? In the same way, we can apply that to change in our life. The future you desire exists right now in potentiality. Whatever it is you want to bring forth, it already is. But to bring it out of waveform into particle reality on the manifest realm, we have some work to do. And we do that by paying attention to the vision we want and then coalescing with that future by embodying what we want to demonstrate. But it's so easy to be focused on all the problems, isn't it? I mean, just look around. See what's happening in the world. Climate-related disasters all over the place. Houses burning, the whole half the state of California on fire. Deliberate attacks on just innocent people. Shootings all over. Political fighting, corruption, unrest. It's all there if we want to keep our eyes glued to that. And then, of course, the nightly news brings us something more every day, just another worry. And the list can go on. And when we're stuck in that, we might be questioning, how can this possibly change? I just can't see it. And then where does our energy go? Where does our inspiration go? It's gone. And we just, when we get lost in that, when we get lost in that kind of thinking, we disconnect. We disconnect from our awareness and we lose access to the field of possibility. We can never, be separate from it. But what is pulled apart is our access to it, our understanding that that is the truth, our awareness of who we are and how we're all connected. It just kind of goes by the wayside. And then we don't have access to it. And that's why maintaining the felt sense that it's already happened is so important, because it appears the problems we face are huge and insurmountable and never ending. And it seems like they're coming at us from all directions and they're too big to handle. But here's something. Moving to a wholeness mindset, becoming a solutionary, entails recognizing one vital point. all of these problems, no matter how diverse and unrelated they seem to be, have the very same cause: a belief in separation, a mistaken belief in separation. Thinking we're separate from source, from each other, from nature, whatever it is, just feeling separate from it all, like an isolated self, and that's what causes it. It's this sense of being isolated. All the rest of it stems from that. John Randolph Price says, correct that error, and all the rest will be taken care of. See, the rest are solved. So, how do we do that? Well, it begins with realizing separation is not the truth. It's not the truth, even though it appears to be. But Einstein tells us it's an optical illusion. And we have our current culture to thank for continually perpetuating this myth. And from that mistaken belief, all the us and them that comes out of it, polarized thinking emanates, duality, competition, misperception, reactivity, lack, not enough, needing to be right, defensiveness. And our ego seems to find its energy precisely by having something to oppose. Have you noticed this? Have you noticed the strength that comes from that? But wholeness will not be revealed to eyes that are stuck in that defensive posture, stuck in only seeing things one way. It's a 9, no, it's a 6, and that's all I'm going to see. Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr, calls this egoic tendency to resist, oppose, negate whatever's happening, he calls it our universal addiction. Our universal addiction. But it all stems from a culturally indoctrinated belief in separation, right? And this sense of separation blocks access to our deepest self. And guess what? A sense of not enough naturally emanates from a belief in separation. Naturally, because we're not experiencing life from our wholeness when that happens. We're living a fragmented life. We're in self-imposed isolation. We're exiling parts of ourselves. Of course we have a sense of lack. How could we not? But a solutionary perspective moves us out of strictly either or dualism to both and holism. From either or dualism to both and holism. It's holistic discernment. But that doesn't mean anything goes. It doesn't mean throw out the baby with the bathwater. Solutionary thinking includes critical thinking, strategic planning ability, creativity, all of it's there. But when we integrate it, as we move to a wholeness mindset, now a whole higher order of intuitive thinking rises up, and we see so much more than we could when we're stuck in dualistic either or thinking. The light bulb turns on. Do you see that? In a holistic, wholeness mindset, we get the ahas, and they can just really show us a different way, really give us that guidance. Because when I'm strictly seeing the world through the eyes of dualistic thinking, I am so busy defending my opinion, telling you why I'm right, telling you why my viewpoint is the right one. I'm trying to prove that the way I'm seeing things is the correct way. When I'm so busy doing that, I am not free to see things any other way because I'm being so reactive and defensive. It's like that famous, Buddhist story of the blind man and the elephant, each experiencing one aspect of the elephant and certain that they have, figured out what it is. A rope, no, it's a spear, no, it's a wall. What's the matter with you? Now, this is exactly what I do when I become stuck on my point of view and defend what I perceive to be true. And I have to confess, I love that the elephant's giving them all side eye because of all this misperception going on. I just love this little cartoon. However, change that belief, I change what I see. This is really important for us. We're seeing through the lens of a belief, and changing the belief is like changing the lens, and we see something different. So to change the belief in separation, I need to move from my opinionated viewpoint to a wholeness mindset, which then frees me to at least honor and see multiple perspectives. I may not agree with them all, but I can at least communicate with them. So this is what I call it's what Thich Nhat Hanh calls interbeing. Interbeing is the recognition that I am connected to all of humanity. And when I do that, now it becomes possible to begin to live in wholeness rather than separateness. Now, previously unknown possibility or unrealized potentiality can actually be liberated into creating something new. Isn't that exciting? This is what miracles are, as the author Tammy Keeves points out. Our ability to tell the story of our life from varied viewpoints means we can create miracles. We truly can. We can transform, we can change. So no matter what we want to see in the outer world, we start within, and then we work with our internal state before we start to work in the outer world. And the literary writer Maria Popova says this: that's how the world changes. We loosen our stranglehold, she says, of our givens. Loosening the stranglehold of my givens, which is my opinions, assumptions, beliefs. And when I do that, I can stretch my mind and imagine what I once thought unimaginable. And that's when our vision expands. Because cultural evolution is directly linked to and is bound up with our individual evolution of inner consciousness. The two co-evolve. As each one of us opens to the truth of who we are and starts living it, we are affecting the cultural change more deeply than we may realize. They're really bound up together. And as we experience our life more and more as a co-arising with the interconnected web of life, which is the true wholeness that we are right now, our consciousness will continue to evolve and be reflected in the cultural evolution. As another one of my personal heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. And what we do affects everyone. What affects one affects all. I love that inescapable network of mutuality. That is what wholeness mindset can tell us. Now, unfortunately, there is no 10-step PowerPoint presentation that we can follow to find our true wholeness. And I'm going to be honest with you, my ego hates that. Hates it. Why? Because searching, seeking, discovering, finding, these are all verbs my ego is very, very comfortable and at home with, and loves, in fact. My ego loves being on a quest. That stuff is just, it's just food for my ego, which is all well and good. But here's the sticking point. What we're looking for, we're looking with. We can't search for what we already are. All we can do is awaken to it. We can't search for what we already are because we're looking in the wrong place, but we can awaken to that wholeness within us. Awaken to our wholeness. This speaks to me the deepest. Awaken to your wholeness. Surrender to its flow. Allow it to emanate and guide. Do you feel that? Do you feel the difference there? Become who you truly are and allow it to guide you. So evolutionary transformation, which is really what we're about here, it's all about surrendering more and more to our true selves, who we've come here to be. That is right now, as we speak, by the way, shining brightly from within each one of us, right now. Only our belief in separation keeps it hidden. That's it. Our wholeness becomes evident and obvious when we transcend our sense of separation, when we live from the embodied sense that we are one. One presence, one power, being that in action. And the truth is, every single one of us is limitless. Limitless. We're all divine potential. We have access to a higher dimension right now of creativity. Right now we do. And this interdependence, this inescapable network of mutuality is calling us forth to heal the world. Are you hearing that call? Can you hear that call? It's calling. I love from the book of John, these words attributed to Jesus. Is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? I said ye are gods. Ye are gods, spiritual beings with spiritual business to transact. And we can choose to purposefully evolve our hearts and our minds. And as we do so, we contribute to our culture's evolution. We are so much more than we know. And it's not serving the world for us to continue playing small. It's time for us to be truly free, to awaken to who we have come here to be, who we truly are, here to make a difference in our world, not just to get buried by all the problems that seem to permeate our culture, but to realize that we have the freedom, the power, the ability in this present moment to live a heart-centered, compassionate life that we want to see come forth as conscious, aware expressions of spirit, knowing and embodying our true wholeness. And I believe we're at a juncture in our unfolding as a culture. And guess what? The world needs us to be solutionaries, to live from our wholeness, become the change that we wish to see in our world. And as we practice this together, evolutionary spirituality, we become emissaries of a better future. Can you just let that sink into your heart? Become an emissary of a better future, a kinder, safer, more compassionate and caring world. So are you ready to become a solutionary and bring that world into being? You can nod your head. I can see a few of you if you are. Well, then let's take a moment right now. I'm going to stop sharing and go into a meditation where we can actually connect with that deeper wholeness that we are. So I'll invite you to get comfortable in your seat. I'm going to sit on my stool right now and get comfy myself. And let's settle in to this now moment. And notice what's happening in your body right now. Just notice. Notice any places of tension as you scan through your body. Maybe around the neck or shoulders. Maybe around the eyes. Wherever. Just move your attention upward from your feet. And any places that you find tense or uncomfortable, just let them go. Come aware and let them go as we release anything we brought with us today, any worries, any cares, any thoughts, maybe thinking about what's happening later, what we have to do, or all of that. We're just going to just gently sweep it aside as you would a cobweb and become totally present to this moment as we sink our awareness deep, deep, deep within our hearts. You can put your hand on your heart if you choose. And as you follow the breath in and out, bring into your mind's eye someone in your life that you deeply, deeply appreciate, or something. It could be a beloved person in your life. It could be a cherished pet, or maybe a warm memory. Someone or something that actually elicits a feeling of gratitude. We don't want to just think about it. We want to feel this appreciation rising up in our hearts. And with each breath, we allow it to expand a little more and a little more until it warms our heart. And now we let that feeling of appreciation radiate beyond the heart, moving throughout your body. Feel the warmth of gratitude as it invigorates every single cell. Feel your aliveness. Know that within you is the oneness of spirit, source energy, available to you right now. And as we allow this feeling of gratitude to permeate our bodies, it acts as a portal to this deeper dimension within us, the heart's deeper intelligence. And we let it expand beyond the body. Creating an energetic field of peace, gratitude, divine love. And we let that radiate outward to bless all of humanity. The truth is, we are all here to be the presence of peace in our life, in our world, whatever that is. Maybe it's in our family, our community, whatever our sphere of influence, as we bring the peace and the love that we are into that world, we help to connect with the interbeingness of reality. We allow it to move through us. And we move from life happens to me, I have nothing to say about it, to no, life happens by and as me. That I can be the presence of peace, that it does make a difference. That it does affect the world in a positive way. And as I transform from within, I see that transformation reflected back to me from without. And for the opportunity to be divine love in action on this day, we are in reverent thanks and gratitude. And we dedicate this time of meditation to the upliftment of all of humankind. And for this, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Jane. Just your marvelous insights and experience and ways of looking at the world and the challenges we're addressing, just fabulous. I was thinking this is the Center for Universal Oneness. And if you recall our mission and what we believe, I think you speak more directly and more insight and more challenges than anyone I've heard in a long time. Just perfectly on point of what we say we are looking for and believe. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.